1 minute.
Oh, there you go.
Ding, 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 ding.
It's perfect timing. I would like to call to order the, regular board meeting of the Board of Education, February 24th, 2015 at 7 o'clock p.m. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Yaxler.
Here.
Impastato. Locke.
Yes.
Duke.
Here.
Hodge.
Here.
Kimmel.
Here. Mr. Hodge, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Gladly. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Hitchens, are there any changes to tonight's agenda? Any additions or removals?
There are not.
Right, then I would entertain a motion to approve the...
I'm sorry.
And I have one thing that I would like removed from the personnel consent agenda. There is a resignation in there that we are going to be taking off of the agenda, or the personnel report.
And you'll tell us what that is.
From Nick Davis.
Okay.
So one change to the personnel report that Mr. Pierce will talk about when it's time to approve the personnel report.
Okay.
Or the consent agenda.
Then I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the knowledge that we have one change coming up in our consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Blakely, second by Locke. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, approval of the agenda. Next, we're moving on to celebrating successes. The first thing we would like to do is invite Andrea Marone and Kimberly Deutsch to come up and talk about our vocational transition program.
I know. We had Andrea Maroney's name on that list, but it's me. I'm Laura Anderson. I'm the divisional coordinator for student services at the high school. And I'm Kimberly Deutsch. I'm the transition specialist at the high school. So we wanted to talk today about celebrating success that we have had with our vocational transition program at the high school level. Something that I've been able to put into place this year with our vocational transition program teacher is a program called the Community-Based Placement Program. Our mission for this program is to put students that are in the VTP program out into the community to enhance their vocational skills and obviously work on areas that are goals for all of our students, gaining soft skills, making them more employable, giving them access to public transportation, social interactions, and giving back to their community. So we were lucky enough to be able to hire Kim this year, Kim Deutsch, as a part-time vocational or a transition specialist. And she works with the case managers, she works with the students, works with their families to kind of look at what their post-secondary goals and outcomes are, and then make decisions about how to train them best to be as successful as they can in the future. One great celebration that we have is that of the students in our vocational transition program, 75% are now placed at some type of position in the community, either volunteering. Basically. Yeah. So 75% of our students are placed in. So before the students go out into the community, we have some in-building jobs set up with them to get them prepared to make sure that they can be successful once they enter out. So they're doing things around the building right now, creating ice packs, stocking our Gatorade machine, delivering passes, distributing mails for market day. All of this is in prep to hopefully junior or senior year, make them eligible to be volunteers in the community. There's a couple of more things that they're taking care of. They manage a classroom pet, and we also have some students that assist our custodial staff. So the community-based placement program right now, with 75% of our students in VTP out in the community, we have students placed at Community Therapy Services in St. Charles, which is a great location, also at our Batavia Public Library, at the Homestead, and then also right here at the district office. So one of the great things about the community-based placement program is that students are also getting exposure and experience and practice utilizing public transportation. We have the students arrange for their own rides. They call ride and cane. They do pickups, they delivery. They have to plan that out several days ahead of time. They are also in charge of money management, so they're learning those skills as well. They have to have enough direct change to pay on the bus. Time management, they gotta know when to leave for work. Communication with their boss, and it's really moving them toward independence, which is one of the things that we have as one of our very main goals.
So these are some of our students working out in the community at the 4 locations that I informed you about. We have a picture of one of our students named Adam. He's been doing a great job working at the homestead. His task that he takes care of weekly, he's there for 1 hour a week and he helps set up the tables for the dinner service, which is really great. We also have Nick over there on the right. He is helping our library right now remove all of the old magazines that are no longer needed in their database. So he's scanning them and marking them as not needed and helping sort. And then also we have 2 young ladies, Shirley and Claire, that are working to keep therapy rooms clean and organized at the community therapy services. And then we have Allie, who is here at RJAC. She set out all of your nameplates for tonight and also delivers any clerical information that needs to be distributed to the building.
So we're really excited because we've been building these great partnerships with, businesses in the Batavia area, and it's a great opportunity for our students and great opportunity for the businesses to have them there. So if you know of anybody that would be interested in participating, they can contact Kim. She's got some business cards here tonight, and we would love to help out.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Do they go out by themselves?
No,
or are they with someone else?
Yeah, all of the students are accompanied by a job coach
Okay.
who is informed of their specific vocational goals and abilities. So then they assist and prompt and monitor them, but also help make sure that they're working towards independence.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, I'd like to invite Dan Rousseau to come up and speak to us about One Book, One Batavia.
Thank you. I am here to talk about One Book, One Batavia. That's a program that's been going on for 13 years, and it's a great way for the whole community to talk about the same book. Now, April of this year marks the 150th anniversary of the Civil War, the end of the Civil War, and the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. The official One Book, One Batavia selection is Manhunt, the 12-day search for Lincoln's killer, but there's also a young adult version of this book called Chasing Lincoln's Killer. And the historian and author of the book, James L. Swanson, he's going to be in our Batavia Fine Arts Center on March 11th. And this is the first time we've been able to have One Book, One Batavia in the Fine Arts Center. So we're very excited about that. At 6:45, some of our music students are going to play some selections from the Civil War, and then the program with Mr. Swanson will begin at 7 o'clock. There'll be a book signing afterwards, and books will be available for purchase. One Book, One Batavia is a partnership between Batavia Public Library, the Friends of Batavia Public Library, and the school district. And that partnership with the school district does a lot for us. It allows our students, our music students, an opportunity to perform. And this year, students in our National English Honor Society created the discussion guide that we gave you copies of. And this is available both online at the public library as well as in print and on the high school website. So there's a quiz where you can test your knowledge of facts around the assassination of Lincoln, some discussion questions, as well as biography of the author. So if you're interested in attending that program, and we certainly hope everybody will be, you can visit the Batavia Public Library website in order to register. That's March 11th, and the book is an amazing read. If you like history, you'll love the book, and if you think you don't like history, you will also love the book. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Next, we'll be moving on to public comments. If anyone wishes to address the board this evening under public comments, please see our recording secretary, Kathy Scafidi, over at the table. She'll give you a pink form that has our board policy for addressing the board. Please put your full name and address on the form as we are required by state law to keep a detailed set of minutes for our meetings. If you would prefer to provide comments to the entire board in written form, there's also a blue form that Kathy can give you. And when you address the board or administration will not enter into a dialogue at that time. It doesn't mean we don't take your issue seriously. If you have unanswered questions, a board member or an administrator will get back to you regarding your matter at a later date. If you have any props or visual aids, please have Dr. Hitchens, our board elected secretary, approve them prior to your presentation. Everyone that wishes to address the board will invite up to the microphone. And tonight we have a very long agenda and quite a few speakers, so I just wanted to remind everyone that we ask you to keep to a 3-minute timeline. First person I would like to invite up is Christy Majorkirth, and thank you for giving me that.
Good evening. I didn't realize I'd be back before you again this month, but here I am. My name is Christy Majorkirth, and I'm the advocacy chair for Can Do. So we had a letter in regard to the STEM partnership discussion. Esteemed members of Batavia Public Schools Board of Education, as you may be aware, Can Do is a Batavia volunteer-led organization for families of gifted and high-ability students in our community. We advocate for and support the interests of 600 plus gifted and high-ability students and their families in BPS 101. Recently, like you, we became aware of the opportunity BPS 101 has to participate in the John C. Dunham STEM Partnership School. This letter serves as an endorsement from Can Do for Batavia Public Schools' participation in the partnership school. We believe students and teachers who are selected for participation in this extraordinary learning opportunity at nearby Aurora University will benefit personally and will enrich the experience of their fellow learners and educators when they return to Batavia Public Schools by sharing the knowledge and experiences they acquired while attending the STEM Partnership School. Please vote to join our neighboring districts in their participation at the John C. Dunham STEM Partnership School at Aurora University and provide any needed support to enable our district's full participation in this unique educational opportunity. Sincerely, the 2014-15 Can Do Executive Board and School Liaisons. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite Julie Saloga up to address the board.
Good evening to all of you. My name is Julie Saloga, and I am here just in kind of reference to my daughter. Sorry if I get emotional. It's due to the PARCC testing coming up in all of our schools. I do have a 5th grade daughter who has severe dyslexia, and the anxiety that she has come upon her for taking this test is extreme, and I wanted to let you know that. This test is very different from the testing that we've had in the past with the ISTAT. It is a new test. It's a different kind of test. If you guys aren't aware, there is a practice test. I encourage all of you to go online and look at this test. I myself am a high school GED student. I went on and took the 5th grade level test that my daughter is asked to take, and I didn't make it past the 4th question. My daughter comes home and says to me, "Mom, my biggest fear in this test is I'm gonna sit there and everyone is gonna be finished, and I'm gonna be on the first question because I can't finish reading it." So I just came here to please let you know that if there is any way that next year we can opt out of this test. I know there's other districts that have. I know Chicago Public Schools opted out of this test. Please look into it. Please look into it for all of our students. Ask your children at home if they have it. Ask anyone you know. Ask how they feel about the test. Don't look at it as it's our child going to school, it's what they need to do. Ask them how they feel about it and take it into consideration, please. I ask everyone to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to invite, Deb Griselle to the table, please.
Good evening, my name is Deb Griselle, and my husband Matt and I have 6 children that have either graduated from or are currently attending Batavia Public Schools. Right now I'm serving as the chair of Can Do, and you just heard a little bit about Can Do. from Christy, but for those of you who are unfamiliar with CAN-DO, CAN-DO stands for Challenge Advocacy Network Development Organization. And we are families of gifted and high ability students in Batavia. Tonight, 3 of us from CAN-DO's executive board will be speaking to you in this section of the meeting. We're representing the families of over 600 gifted and high ability students in Batavia Public Schools. Many of our parent members were prevented from attending this meeting tonight by prior family commitments or work commitments. We've encouraged them to contact the board via email to voice their support for our statement tonight at this meeting. But at this time, I'd like to invite our CAN-DO board members, elementary and middle school liaisons, and other CAN-DO parents who are in attendance tonight at this meeting to stand, if they're not already standing. They're all wearing blue and white ribbons, if we didn't run out of ribbons. Thank you. You may be seated. Gifted learners are more than good students. They're not just high achievers. They have unique learning needs, and when those needs are met with appropriate support and challenge, they flourish, and they develop into the world's innovators and leaders in their chosen fields. Giftedness is not something that can be coached or taught. It's a style of learning. It's an innate ability to learn at a faster pace and with greater depth of understanding and creative thought than typical learners. A student cannot grow out of giftedness. It is a characteristic that gifted learners retain throughout their lives. Our role as advocates for the learning needs of over 600 gifted and high ability students in Batavia Public Schools brings CAN-DO to tonight's board meeting. CAN-DO parents are so grateful to the individual teachers and gifted coaches who've made commendable efforts to design learning opportunities for the students in their classrooms. But across the district, the experience of gifted students remains completely teacher-dependent and inconsistent. Without a philosophical statement or accompanying goals to guide the development of services for gifted and high-ability students, the service delivery model and instruction for gifted services has become untenable and inequitable. CAN-DO's other speakers tonight will further illustrate this point in a few moments, but allow me to share just one example of an inconsistency found in Batavia's current delivery of gifted services. After receiving widely varied gifted services at the elementary level, gifted students can be disqualified from gifted services through retesting and reevaluation process at the end of 5th grade that suddenly finds them ungifted as they enter Rotolo Middle School. Then in a complete reversal of philosophy, those same disqualified students from Rotolo Middle School are encouraged to embrace the opportunity for academic challenge as they transition to life at Batavia High School and enroll again in courses that offer increased academic rigor. So suddenly, in this transition, they're seen as academically talented students again, magically transformed by the availability of a sufficient number of courses to meet their needs that did not exist for them at Rotolo Middle School. This unfortunate experience for gifted students further illustrates the absence of a coherent district philosophy and accompanying policies and programs. What does this reflect about our educational philosophy as a district? And more importantly, what message does this send to gifted and high ability students and their families in Batavia Public Schools?
Would you mind summarizing a little for us so we have time to listen to everyone tonight?
Sure. I timed it at 3 minutes, but I'll try to make it shorter. In the recent past, CAN-DO enjoyed a collaborative relationship with BPS as part of Gifted Services Committee. Some ideas, including clustering gifted students within a classroom at the elementary level or on a specified team at the middle school, came from those gifted committee meetings, but the progress and promise of that process has been stalled. Meetings this year have been consistently canceled and only rescheduled as a result of CAN-DO's requests and after lengthy delays. CAN-DO parents have approached their children's classroom teachers, building principals, and their school's gifted coaches with their concerns. However, without an overall district policy to provide guidance, any resulting change has only impacted the situation of an individual student or a cluster of students in one classroom. These changes do not reach students in other classrooms or schools from across the district, making this process inefficient and ineffective. So tonight, CAN-DO is appealing to the Board of Education for your assistance. CAN-DO is asking the Board of Education to, number one, allocate human and financial resources toward developing a philosophy of learning, a vision statement, and accompanying goals to guide the development of curriculum instruction for all students by bringing in outside experts to guide this process. Number two, allocate financial resources to ensure that teachers receive targeted professional development opportunities that result in differentiated instruction in our classrooms. And three, promote a culture of excellence in Batavia that includes support for well-trained teachers who differentiate instruction to meet students' needs, and academic challenge and support for all of Batavia's students. Thanks for your time and attention tonight.
Next, I would like to invite Anna Adams. And again, I don't mean to ever be rude and cut someone off. We just have so many people and we want to make sure we have everyone have a chance to speak tonight.
Good evening. I am Anna Adams and I am the programs chairperson for Can Do. Our family moved to Batavia in 2001, primarily because of the excellent reputation of the public schools here. We have 5 children, all currently in Batavia schools, 2 in elementary, 1 at Rotolo, and 2 at BHS. All but the youngest, who is only in 1st grade, have benefited from gifted services here. In the 9 years since our oldest started 3rd grade, we have seen services vary greatly and decline recently. I'm here this evening to relate to the board the personal experiences of Can Do families and students and the negative impact this decline in service is having on the students within the district, as well as the district's reputation. Our first concern is that instructional delivery at the elementary level is inconsistent. Currently, there is a different model of instruction for each grade's gifted and talented students in 3rd through 5th grade. Even within a grade, there are differences in delivery models from school to school. These are not just small differences attributable to customized instruction to meet individual student needs. These are differences that include what level of math is being taught to students, whether they are expected to self-teach or have instruction from a teacher, whether instruction from a teacher is provided every day or only parts of every other day. In some schools, gifted students are being pulled out of the regular classroom for math and being placed in closets or other inadequate spaces that often have insufficient number of desks and an overall poor learning environment, expected to teach themselves via computer or an endless stream of worksheets. A second major concern, as Deb pointed out earlier, is the redrawing of the gifted line between 5th and 6th grades. This district defines gifted as the top 5% locally in language arts and math standardized test scores. Currently, a new top 5% line is redrawn between 5th and 6th grades, often disqualifying students already receiving gifted services. Can Do families completely support the district's testing of 5th grade students to identify additional students that would benefit from a more challenging curriculum in middle school. However, research illustrates that gifted learners do not grow out of being gifted. Once a student is identified as being gifted, they should not subsequently be excluded from receiving gifted services. These newly disqualified students take a huge blow to their confidence and self-esteem, unnecessarily questioning their academic ability, as they are often then isolated from the peer group established while receiving gifted services at the elementary level. BPS 101 needs to adopt an inclusive policy that would continue to provide gifted services to all students previously identified. I'm wrapping it up now. These issues and inconsistencies have resulted in many gifted and talented students becoming extremely unhappy at school, forcing some families to explore options outside of BPS for their students. As the dissatisfied families of Batavia's gifted students have begun the search process, they have learned that testing professionals, private schools, and neighboring districts have the distinct impression that BPS no longer supports its gifted students. They've discovered that these professionals have been counseling families with gifted and talented students not to move to Batavia or to leave the Batavia School District. This situation is both alarming and appalling to all of us who have worked so closely with our home schools to support education in this district. This is surely not the reputation that BPS wishes to have. We strongly urge the board to support action on this issue in order to retain our gifted and high-ability student population and prevent BPS's educational reputation from suffering further. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Jody Perfunt up to the table.
For sake of time, I will speak quickly. As you have heard, we strongly feel that BPS 101 needs a plan for not only gifted and high ability students, but all students to achieve their full potential through increased rigor and a culture of excellence. One way to begin this transformation process is to benchmark against other districts similar to ours. Conducting this research, and providing this type of information is one of the many ways CANDO has supported our district. We have provided the board with a table summarizing how neighboring districts address the needs of their talented and gifted students. You will see a wide variety of approaches are used. In particular, I would like to highlight District 181, which serves Hinsdale, Burr Ridge, and Clarendon Hills. It mirrors BPS 101 in several ways, including the size of the district, student spending, and state scores. In 2001, the district's stakeholders went to the Board of Education with concerns very similar to ours regarding the quality of service provided to gifted students. This propelled a comprehensive evaluation of the district's services for gifted learners. D181 sought outside evaluation of their gifted services from experts in gifted education at the University of Virginia because they were resolved to improve services for all students, to develop a philosophy of teaching and learning and a definition of the gifted learner, and to outline a clear and comprehensive process improvement plan for all stakeholders, the students, staff, administration, and parents. Due to the constraint of time, I will refer you to the D181 website for a complete review of the process and plan. The results are impressive. For example, they have outlined a 5-year plan for all learners to, at minimum, complete Algebra 1 by the end of 8th grade by the 2018-19 school year, whereas currently only the top 5%, or approximately 300 BPS students, will complete Algebra 1 by the end of 8th grade. The D181 quality improvement process is transparent, realistic, resounds excellence, and because it is readily available to the public for free, it should seriously be considered as a model that can be used by BPS 101. Benchmarking best practices identified by experts in gifted education is another powerful tool toward improvement. We should be utilizing local experts such as Northwestern University's Center for Talent and Aurora University. And if they do not provide this service, then the experts at the University of Virginia should be called upon. While this effort will require resources, it will be dollars well spent. Consider the cost-benefit ratio of keeping BPS district students within the district to losing those students to private or homeschool. A highly functioning school district that embraces a culture of excellence for all stakeholders will attract families to the area. CANDO will eagerly provide valuable time and resources toward the improvement process. We want the bar raised not only for gifted and high ability students, but for all students, so that each student can reach their full potential and be college and career ready by the end of their tenure at BPS 101. Now is the time to raise the bar, to raise the floor, to raise the ceiling for all learners. We look forward to working with you on this process. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Denny Pizarro to the table.
Good evening. My name is Denny Pizarro, and I'm a speech-language pathologist in the district. I would like to express some of my concerns over the upcoming administration of the park that will occur twice this school year. Each student who takes the park will lose between 16 and 19 hours of instruction. In addition, there will be 2 additional hours lost to MAPS testing between now and the end of the school year. That is for our regular education students, but the numbers are much worse for our students who qualify for accommodations on these tests. Examples of accommodations include extended time, or having math read to them, or being tested in an alternate location. Those accommodations are almost exclusively provided by special education and related services teachers. There are significant implications for this practice. While individual students with IEPs are given these tests with accommodations, the instruction of all students with IEPs is being disrupted. These students may be reading at a level that is 1 or more grade levels below their peers. These are the students who will have disrupted instruction for weeks at a time. What will be the impact of that on their learning? I personally believe that this test is developmentally inappropriate for all students, And I think that 16 hours is too much time to sacrifice. But imagine how a child feels when taking these tests. I've watched students struggle. I've watched them cry. I've watched them give up. I know that how they feel when they are done taking these tests. They are deflated. And I feel like I've betrayed them. And I am a child advocate and their ally. And they depend on me to protect them. And I am sacrificing them to this test. I tell you, not one accommodation that we give these children will raise their reading level. Not giving them more time or an alternate location or a quiet place. What we are doing is demoralizing to these fragile learners. We hold them to a standard that they cannot achieve. It's like asking a short person to be tall. These tests are not appropriate for these children. I walk away from these proctoring assignments and I feel crushed inside. I am just one voice, but you as a board speak for this district. And I implore you to take the fight to the legislators, to ISBE, and to the Department of Education. Please stand up for the rights of the children in Batavia. These are the children that you have been elected to serve. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Ron Reckenbacher.
Hi, I'm Ron Reckenmacher, and this is in regard to item 521 on the agenda, the Grace McWayne parking lot. I sent an email earlier. Did you guys get that? Okay. I have two issues that I'll talk about tonight. The first is that there is a significant cost associated with this item, $280,000, $282,250. And in watching the City Council over the past couple of years, I've gotten the impression that they would feel that the public should hear specific discussion on these types of items. I was hoping that one of the board members would have made a motion to take this item off the consent agenda. The other issue that I have with this is the scope of the job. I spoke with Pat Brown about this and was not convinced that the current proposal is the best use of taxpayer dollars. The basics from Pat are: the current proposal is to install a special underdrain system which will cost an additional $200,000. Just resurfacing would cost $80,000. The parking lots are supposed to last 20 years before resurfacing. The current state seems to be that the parking lot is failing after approximately 14 years. That's the age of it currently. There has been no cost-benefit analysis done, such as for, adding this underdrain system, as in, if we go ahead with the additional $200,000 and presumably gain back the 6 years of lifetime, it would take approximately 70 years to recoup the $200,000 as opposed to just simply resurfacing after 14 years. More importantly, there seems to be some question as to whether or not the current parking lot premature failure is due to water infiltration from under the surface as opposed to through the top of the surface. That would be the result of poor maintenance, for example. So there was no test done to determine the source of the water, and the only record of seal coating was for the single instance in 2009, and seal coating should be done at least every 4 years, 3 or 4 years. The implication is that the underdrain system may not be necessary. Please discuss this item. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Michelle Olache to the table.
Good evening. I sent the board an email with my questions and concerns shortly after participating in the STEM school tour with you on February 17th. I didn't receive a reply, so I resent the email this last Monday. Ms. Drummel replied that the topic was, quote, still under discussion and that the administration is prepared to answer all board member questions and provide them any information they need to make their decision, end quote. She referred me to a link on BATV the recording of the January board meeting because she said that many of my particular questions are addressed in the STEM presentation. I watched the presentation and found none of my questions answered, so I responded to her with a copy to Dr. Hitchens asking that my questions be answered. With the decision on the agenda for tonight, I thought it was important that these and many other questions be answered so the board can make an informed decision with plenty of time to think about it. Since I still haven't received a reply, I thought I'd read my email out loud and ask again that these questions be answered in the discussion tonight. I'm wondering about some of the details of this arrangement. I still don't understand how our Batavia children would be integrated into the classrooms. I realize that Dr. Sherry Eagle said that Batavia would be given various options, but what do those options really look like? What about busing? Would parents be responsible for bringing their children to a specific place from which the buses would then travel to the STEM school? How much time will this traveling take out of the children's day? These may seem like very specific questions, but I think every level of questioning needs to be examined when making such a big decision. To step away from the details, I believe sending elementary-age children is too early. The recommendation from the most recent Citizens Advisory Committee about non-core subjects states that the district should, quote, develop a series of career pathways that help students explore fields of interest, but their experiences should begin in middle school, end quote. I understand that this recommendation deals with non-core subjects, but the overall consensus of those on this committee was the importance of providing opportunities to learn about many different subjects while in the Batavia School District and not put kids in tracks. Yet this STEM school does just the opposite. Finally, stepping away even further and looking at the big picture of the decision, I wonder how you will answer the question from parents about the equity of this education for all students in the district. Participation in this STEM school will not give all students in the district the same opportunities. Only 50 students will go there, and no one else will have that chance until one of those students leaves or moves on to high school. That is not fair to all the students in the district. Dr. Eagle also said that the students are chosen based on certain criteria, but those criteria, quote, are not made public, end quote. Why not? Parents will certainly want to know what those criteria are and why their children were not chosen. Please consider all these questions very carefully before making this decision. And education within the Batavia School District should be equitable for all. Thank you.
I'd like to invite anyone from BESPA here. There's a big crowd, so I can't see if anyone. Ah, there she is.
I'm not the BESPA president.
I'm Gina McKaylee, and I am the building rep for Hooverwood, and we just have two really quick things, and that is that our president, Tim Beckers, was nominated and will be attending the Educational Support Personnel Conference in New Orleans next week. And Cindy Kane has been chosen as our delegate for the IEA Representative Assembly, and that will be held in Rosemont in April. So that's it.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite Amy Biancheri, the BEA president, to the table.
Good evening.
Hi, Amy.
Hi. First, I do want to thank Denny for coming out and all the teachers that I see here and all the parents and community members. It's a big crowd, and it's great to see that people are coming and giving their opinions and giving their feedback. I do have a couple of things tonight. I know it's kind of a little past the midpoint of the year, and we're assessing kind of where we are as teachers right now. And there are a lot of struggles that we have had and that we are continuing to have. And I do want to say that our biggest goal is always to do what's best for the kids in Batavia, and that I speak for every teacher in that that is our primary goal. That's what we care about the most, and that all the work that we do goes toward that end. And that being said, I do also want to say I appreciate the more open role that we've had and the more open communication we've had this year, and the willingness of all parties to talk about some of these issues. But there are some issues, and I did want to point out a couple of things that we've been struggling with and that we're continuing to work on. One is the curriculum and the Common Core rollout and everything. And I do want to just give you a quick update. The BEA resent a survey for teachers who teach elementary or middle school math to see how the Common Core rollout is going. And I'm planning on meeting with the math leadership team before they present and share the results of that survey so that we can kind of go forward and do some positive work with that, because I know that is a continuing thing. The reason I say that to you is because I know the biggest struggles that we have as teachers are really in time and resources. So anything where the teachers are kind of desperate for really good resources, and we've been working on that. So that is something that is definitely a need. And the other big stressor right now is, of course, the PARCC tests. And I think Denny's words were very eloquent, and I see that stress in the teachers, and I see that stress in the community, and I see that stress kind of throughout. And I do want to recognize, because I know the board's hands are tied in a certain sense, because the Illinois State Board of Education has basically sent a letter, if people aren't aware of this, that says we will not give you state funding if you don't administer the PARCC test. So, and I know certain districts like Winnetka have the funding to stand up to that. So I do understand where our position is in that. As BEA, I'm planning on running communication past my executive board next Tuesday to go out to the community and also to the teachers to talk about how we do get to our legislators and start that conversation and really get people to understand what the reality of the situation is, because it is a lot of time. It's I took the 8th grade practice test, and I would encourage you, go take the practice test. They're very difficult. We met with 3 state legislators, 3 local presidents, West Aurora, Geneva, and us. Met with 3 state legislators earlier in the month and made them take the 8th grade practice test, and they had a very difficult time. Let's just put it that way. It was difficult for them. It took them 10 minutes to log in, and they're smart people. And then it was a very difficult test, 50 paragraph, reading selections and stuff. So the PARCC test is something that has been a big stressor for everybody. While we understand, it is something that I feel like the community and the teachers, everybody should be contacting their legislators and trying to get that changed. But a couple positives after I'm off my soapbox about that. We are very appreciative as a staff that the CEC, the Consortium for Educational Change, is coming out this spring, and they've been working with us to revisit our mission, vision, values, and to kind of refocus our work, which we really are appreciative of. We're also appreciative of next year's calendar and the addition of some SIP days to get some of this work done, and also the staggered start so that the very small children in the district don't have to do 3 full weeks of school at the beginning, which is real rough on them. And one last thing, we have been invited, and a team of teachers and a team of administrators is going to the TURN conference in the spring, which is sponsored by the CEC. It's TURN is the Teachers Union Reform Network is what the acronym stands for, but it's where teachers unions and districts work together to solve problems, and this one is on poverty, which I think is a very timely and also very, very important issue. And I was amazed at the reaction when I sent an email out. I got a really, really high number of replies from my teachers that wanted to go. So we have a team of 6 people that are going, and there's a team of administrators. So, and I would just say from the board, any support that you can give us in our efforts to do what's best for the kids, we really appreciate. And thank you. Thank you for your work.
Thanks, Amy.
I'm not sure which school.
Okay, I believe we have PTO representatives here tonight, but I'm not sure who or what school they're representing. And maybe we don't. All right, then I'd like to move on to our student ambassadors.
Hello. Okay, we have a bunch of exciting things to share with you. A junior from our school named Dylan Uzumeki went to state for wrestling, and a girl who's a junior also, went to state for gymnastics for vault and floor. The JV basketball team finished their season, and all the managers and everybody got to play, so that was really exciting. Indoor track has started, boys and girls, so they're getting going with their season. They had their first meet, I think Friday, I want to say, against Geneva. The ACT is March 3rd for juniors, and then everybody else has a day of service, and the term ends March 12th, so all of our term classes are ending.
One last important academic note, the math team has its regional this Saturday. It's very competitive, very important competition. They're in a better position than they've been in a long time. They took third in conference this year, so they have a very hopeful outlook. It looks good. In the arts department, Batavia Fine Arts Festival is March 3rd, 5th, and 6th. This displays the facilities the Batavia Fine Arts Center has to offer. Things range from a comedy improv show to students playing music, to even being able to create your own art project. So it shows a wide span of what you can do with those facilities we have that are extremely nice as well. And one last cool thing that happened recently. Apparently the spirit of charity lives quite well at the middle school. RMS's most recent penny war raised $6,700 to build a $5,000 well in Haiti. So they cleared the goal, and they're going to get the deluxe well down there, which is fantastic. So I wanted to give a shout out to them because they're
At least a grand of that's
I left my house.
Yeah. What was the date? That's because 3 board members have 6th graders, so we're.
That's it.
All right, well, thank you guys. That's awesome. That was exciting. And I did hear a little rumor that we have a favorite athlete of the boards who also will be doing some performing arts this spring. Perhaps leading in a play or something.
That is true. I do dabble in the artistic field. The spring play will be Little Brother. I am not the main role, but I'm like the second biggest guy in farce. I will be featured in that, bringing some athletics and arts together, hopefully, bridging the gap a little bit.
I like that. I like that. A little shout out to Jake.
Nice job.
All right, thank you, Jake. Thank you, Sam. Next, we'll be moving on to our consent agenda. The consent agenda is a method of streamlining our meetings by taking one vote on a number of routine personnel and business items. Each of the items is detailed in the agenda and has been appropriately posted in the board packets. Mr. Pierce, will you please read the consent agenda?
Yeah, and like I said at the beginning of the meeting, in the personnel report, the first item you'll see is a resignation from Nicholas Davis, and that has been rescinded, so I'd like that to be struck from the record. 5.1 to 5.6 is the approval of the minutes from January 27th, February 7th, February 17th, and February 18th. As noted, 5.7 is the personnel report. 5.8 is our routine financial items. 5.9 is the treasurer's report. 5.10 are the donations. We had $7,040.88 donated from the J.B. Nelson PTO for the purchase of 14 MemoView document cameras. We also had $134.61 from Wells Fargo donated to help fund and support the PBIS program over at Patola. 5.11, we had one FOIA request. You can see that there. 5.12 is the destruction of closed session recordings from August 7, 2013. 5.13 is a review of closed session minutes. 5.14 is the fishing club overnight field trip. 5.15 is the donation from Water Street Studios of a tile mosaic for HC Storm, which is a great project. 5.16 is the Key Club overnight trip. 5.17 is the uninterruptible power supply replacement. 5.18 is another replacement of voice routers. 5.19 is our annual Power School support contract. 5.20 is the approval of the Batavia High School track improvements.
Actually, that's rejecting those bids.
Excuse me, rejecting the improvements that were proposed. My apologies. 5.20 is the Grace McWayne parking lot replacement. 5.22, 10-year health and life safety bid. 5.23 is the disposal of surplus district property. The commercial washer and dryer that is in RJAC will no longer be there. It's a sad moment. 5.24 is the intergovernmental agreement that the Park District has with us for kindergarten enrichment, and 5.25 is the approval of all of the consent agenda items.
I'd like to ask the board members if there are any items on the consent agenda that you would like moved or clarified. Questions? Discussion? Good.
All mine were answered.
Okay, Brad, I did want to, we had talked briefly earlier, and I just wanted to clarify that on the Park District IGA, I know that we've had a continuing conversation about space needs at AC Storm. Can you address that and how that relates back to the IGA?
Sure. Currently, the Park District program at HC Storm occupies a room in the school for half of a day, so they run half. And that has been our agreement with Park District for the past several years, is that we want to offer the service to parents, but minimize the impact that it has on space at HC Storm because of crowding issues at that school. So that will remain in place, that we will commit a half of room. What we anticipate right now is that art is on a cart. We anticipate that to continue for next year. If kindergarten projections are high, right now in kindergarten preview, we're not expecting a large kindergarten class at Storm, which could potentially allow for art to be back in the classroom at HC Storm. But it would be dependent upon kindergarten enrollment.
Sure thing.
Wait for comment or clarification.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to clarify or make a comment regarding the parking lot at Grace McWayne. This goes back to a meeting that we had on January 15th with Pat Brown. Jason and myself met with Pat Brown, Chris Mon, Mark Anderson, and Jeff from KKGB, and we went through it pretty extensively. Talked about the water infiltration, the existing how the storm water will be removed, remediated, any need for any detention area, boring samples, things of that nature. Basically, skim it all down, things that you probably don't really care. yeah, we're well aware of what's going on, how it's going to work, and what's going to be needed there. So it was nice having Jeff there with us. It's been talked extensively, and it's a project that we definitely are in dire need of getting done. So, and Pat, if you want to throw anything out there, go ahead.
Good.
Thanks.
Good. Any other questions, clarifications needed? All right, then I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the one change being that we're revoking the resignation, or he has revoked, or he has rescinded the resignation of Nick Davis. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Blakely, second by Stoops. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Blakely?
Yes.
Gaspar?
Yes.
Locke?
Yes.
Stoops?
Yes.
Hodge?
Yes.
Drummond?
Yes. Consent agenda is approved with the one change to personnel. Next, we'll move on to items for discussion and information only. The first item in that area is the revisions to the strategic plan.
Yeah, that's me. Like Amy mentioned in her comments, we are going through a review, and Amy's sitting on a small work group that came up with a document, which was a draft mission, vision, and some slightly tweaked goals, strategic goals. These aren't the specific targets that we'll build later, but strategic goals for the district. And so we had a small work group that worked with the CEC to put this document together, and there's many, many, many different levels of feedback that we're getting. This is just phase one, and I've sent that document. It's in board docs, and this is the board's opportunity to provide feedback on this draft of this one page. Like I said, there's pieces that will be coming later, like the setting of the targets and figuring out the value statements that go along with the mission and vision. So that part is coming at a later date, but this, Amy's helping out, and some of the building principals are helping collect feedback from the staff right now. We'll also get student and parent feedback at some point, but it is a few-month process, and so this is your opportunity to provide feedback on this one document. If you had any, I know some of you gave me your feedback already behind the scenes, and we'll take that back to the work group, and we'll incorporate all the feedback that we receive at this round. I wanted to open it up for more feedback.
I'll just say what I had met with you, Lisa, but I just wanted to say that I think this is a great step. And it's a good step in the right direction for us to make some great decisions.
Yeah, I think part of what we talked about was how great it will be to have those goals clarified, and so that the decisions that you're making should all be aligned to whatever the goals are.
What our goals.
Your job is to give us clear direction, and this is the opportunity for you guys to give us some clear direction and make sure that you're setting the course for the future.
Thank you.
And I think Amy's out beating the drum, making sure that teachers know that this is not going to work if we don't have their feedback, that it's really important that this is a strategic plan that is embraced by everyone in the district. So as Lisa said, there will be lots of opportunity to provide that, but please do not miss your chance, because it's really important that we're all focused on the same goals and moving in the same direction. Any other comments on that?
I just wanted to thank everyone who participated in it. I know the administration put a lot of time into it, and I look forward to actually adopting the policy when we get there. Thank you.
Next, you have something?
Anything, Jason? Good.
I'm just wondering, when it comes to, the vision, mission, and strategic goals here, I'm all for, of course, our collaborative efforts with the BEA and all of our instructors and parents and students, but what I worry about, which is the curveball we always seem to grab from the state, the federal government, and stuff like that. We can have the best plans going forward, and then 2 years ago we didn't even know park existed, and now it's upon us. So is there any type of preliminary understanding between all parties involved here that, not everything's perfect. We can have a perfect plan, we can't depend upon a perfect execution?
We did talk about that in our small group, and I think you bring up a really good point that it'll take a while, if we're still giving park in 3 years, for that data to be validated. So we wouldn't, when we set our targets, so we know that a student is an A score. So what is it that we value in, how do we prove that students are growing? If we're not going to use that assessment, we still have to give it, because to not give it, there are very dire consequences for a district who doesn't get that, who doesn't have the students take the test. But it doesn't mean we have to use it in our strategic plan. So if this is our guidance document, what are those targets that we want our kids to hit, and how will we evaluate that? It's not just a test. There's other ways that we could evaluate whether or not they're learning and growing.
Right, I agree, and I'm not trying to use park as the crutch on this.
No, it was a good segue though.
Yeah, but I mean, it's, it is a concern, obviously, to many parents out there, a few parents. We haven't heard from every parent, and I'm sure every child might have a concern or consideration for the testing, but, it's something that we didn't impose. We have to impose. That it was given to us to bequeath to our community. So, just having an understanding of that, I think, is something that might be necessary to understand, and I mean, also following future funding models and stuff like that, where there is so much uncertainty out there that it's a great strategic vision and direction, but I want to have everybody's full buy-in that this can change on a dime, and it's not because we want to change it, or it's not because you want to change it, it's because there's outside influences that could be impacting this.
Thanks, Jason. Anyone else? All right, then we'll be moving on to the digital learning plan. Tony and Glacy.
Last spring, the Board of Education approved the 21st Century Learning Plan, which we're now calling the Digital Learning Plan. And now that we're a little more than a semester into the implementation of that plan, where each of our students in grades 6 through 12 have their own Chromebook, and with the plan, the next phase of the plan rolling out next fall, giving devices to our students at the elementary level, I wanted to take an opportunity to ask the board if they had any input on things that they'd like to see before we review our progress. The plan is that we'll give the Board of Education an opportunity to visit classrooms at Batavia High School to see how students are using Chromebooks and with this increased access and what instruction looks like. And also give the board an opportunity to have discussion with teachers, and that would take place on March 9th. And that would be followed up with an in-depth discussion at the March board meeting about our findings and our data. And then with the plan being that the board would approve the purchase of the actual devices for the elementary level. So that's our general plan. We're wondering if there was anything you wanted to see that was different than what you've seen in the past.
You'll be bringing updated information from things you've been tracking. And then if there are specific things that board members need to know, questions that you need answered, here's our opportunity to start looking toward March 9th. We'll be having an opportunity to see everything in action. You may have new questions based on that. And then I think we've all talked a little bit about the K-5 will look a little different than 6-12. And if there are specific things that you need Tony to be looking into or getting information on for you to be comfortable moving forward to that, then that would be the time now, between now and March. What the date will be?
9th.
Right,
That's the
9th
date
and
of our
then,
workshop.
yeah. So we have 2 further opportunities to talk about this, so have it in your head before we even are in a position where we're going to be thinking about taking a vote. Donna, I know you had some particulars. Did you have a chance to talk to Tony about that yourself? Or?
I met with Tony and Lisa today, and I gave them my 2 copies.
Okay, great.
They have, hopefully they'll have a chance to look at all of it. Some of it is for the part that's right now with the 6th through 12th grade. And my other set of questions was going to be from supposedly the kindergarten to the 5th grade. And I was just trying to get input from the staff, the parents, and the students, except the students not at the lower grade. More parent or staff involvement. But at the high school and middle school, looking for the student input as well as the parent. You know, Greg and I do not have any students in the system anymore, so can't really talk to ours where you guys can.
Right.
And you would all probably get different answers. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. I'm just trying to see if the Chromebooks enhance the curriculum or with tasks created for the Chromebooks per se, and other things that they have a list of. So.
That's great. And then Tony, I know you have the somewhat difficult job of getting input from 7 different people and trying to figure out exactly what we're trying to ask of you and move forward with. So I will leave that with you, and then we'll just continue the conversation. And like I said, I know a lot of times things just come down the pike quickly because we only have an opportunity to speak together at our open meetings. So it's sort of just waving the flag of, remember, this is coming up, be thinking about it, be making sure that if you have questions, that you are sharing them and getting your questions answered, because it's kind of the big topic coming up in the next couple of months. All right. Excellent. That was easy.
I wanted to share just one real quick thing with Tony here. It's not a measurable in any way of metrics, but I know I have a 6th grader and an 8th grader, so they both have Chromebooks, and I've seen them definitely extend their ability to learn and grow on their own much more with these devices. I mean, we have, personal computer, they have their own personal devices, but I really feel that the Chromebook is being used as a learning resource a lot more than maybe some parents may see it as another piece of digital technology in their children's hands to be a distraction. My 8th grader, who used to always say when I was trying to help her with homework, I don't know. Now with the Chromebook is saying, I don't know yet. And then she goes and she finds it. So I'm just finding that she's getting the confidence to self-learn, self-teach, self-develop. I mean, she's teaching me things about it right now. And that's not, I don't think, a metric that we'll ever be able to really measure, but I just wanted to share that with you and with the rest of you here.
That's great. Thanks, Jason.
I'll piggyback on that. I sent Tony a picture today. I was at the basketball game at Rotolo, the girls' game, and sitting in the bleachers were about 6 students. All had their Chromebooks out, all working and watching the basketball game at the same time. So I snapped a picture and sent it to Tony because I thought it was really kind of neat to see. Kind of cool.
That's great. Thanks. That's good. That's fun. Any other comments or questions? All right, then I would like to invite, I believe, Lisa Palisi and Amy Nelson are here to talk about the Student Service Department.
Carrie Rue.
Carrie Rue. Carrie Rue. I'm sorry.
You just panicked Amy, though. That was really
I know,
fun.
Amy can turn many red.
Did she panic?
Yeah.
Like thinking,
I know.
And Laura and Natalie.
Oh, excellent. We got a whole crowd. I just wanted Amy to come up and tell us about kindness again. I get so excited. In my life.
She's here. I know.
Here, you need another chair? We have one extra one here.
She's
Thank you for having us here tonight. I have a whole team of people to introduce you to. Last year I was able to come to the board and tell you just about our whole continuum of services, and of course I used my best Guy Ritchie as a picture portrait throughout the presentation. But this year I have a really amazing team, so I'm really going to leave a lot of this presentation to them. So I want to do some introductions in case you haven't met everybody. We have Carrie Rue, our new Assistant Director of Student Services, Laura Anderson, our Divisional Coordinator at Batavia High School, and Natalie Assel, our new Divisional Coordinator at Rotolo Middle School. And I will say, you've been in Batavia for a very long time, and this is the first time that I've really had a real sense of a student services leadership team working together for students, and it's really been really exciting and wonderful. So we are going to start with Carrie and our goals.
We had an opportunity to meet together this spring and really take a look at the state of the union as far as what the Student Services Department should be responsible for and what we want to see from our students for growth. And so when we got together, we really thought that there were 3 important goals that we wanted to accomplish this year for our teams that would benefit not only our staffs, but ultimately student growth, which is our #1 focus, both in the academic realm as well as that social emotional piece, that whole student. And these are our 3 department goals that we have embedded in most of our decision-making processes this year. Our first one really is, as Lisa introduced, this is our department team, and we want to be one voice. We want to be one voice as a leadership team, one voice to our staff, one voice to our students, and really that experience that our parents come when they have students needs, that the decision would be made the same whether what building that they came to, that we really want to build this commonality of services that our families, our students, and our staff really have the best and most universal experience that we can. One of the things that we've really focused on is building IEP compliancy and consistency of programming, and that is stemmed from our professional development that we're providing our staff in-house, that our early childhood teams through our high school teams are getting the same message and training. That we really want to build that solid foundation for our teams so that when our students move through the system, that those experiences and those professional developments are consistent. The next goal that we had is really focusing on least restrictive environments. The heart and soul of special education is that our students are successful with the least amount of resources needed, and the fact that we don't want to make them dependent on resources. We want them to become as independent as possible. So we have looked at obstacles that we are experiencing throughout the district and trying to build ways around those obstacles so that our students can stay in Batavia, be educated in the least restrictive environment. That's really, like I said, that heart and soul of the IDEA. A couple of things that we've really looked at that we'll focus on is we've been able to provide a lot more opportunities for our students to be educated in Batavia, which is our ultimate goal. We have expanded and started to tap in other district resources as far as instructional coaches and things of that nature that we can provide special education staff to allow our students to meet those Common Core rigor standards that we needed. And that's been a huge bridge of making sure that we have that core plus more. So our students are not getting supplanted instruction, but supplemental is really what we want to be in that resource. And then our third goal is really evaluation of effectiveness. We're going to talk a little bit about data today, but what we have established this year is it's a baseline year for us, is that when we look at some of the data tracking that we've had in the past, it's at a point of really what we want to do is establish that baseline and grow from here. What are we doing and how are we impacting our students at the program level, at the individual student level, and ultimately at the district level. And so those are our goals. This is Batavia Public Schools. The students have identified needs that currently 13.5% of our students are identified receiving special education services. Back in 2010, it was around 11%, so we've seen about a 2% increase. This is 854 Batavia students have an IEP, or they're receiving some type of IEP services.
How many? How many?
854. The state average is 14%. We do not have the current state average. That's going to be coming out later this year to see where the state is for now. The report was from 2013. That's the most current numbers that we have. So one of the things that we're going to closely monitor is to see is the state average increasing at the same rate as Batavia is, because those are some hypotheses that we need to identify as a team to see why some of our numbers have been increasing over the last 5 years. But that trend data is something that we're going to have to monitor. Of those 854 students, 68 of these students are enrolled in either a Mid-Valley program or a private school program, and 25 are enrolled in transition programs. So those are students 18 to 22 years of age. Okay. A couple of things that we'd like to talk about is each one of us wanted to highlight a few pieces that each level has tackled when we look at those 3 department goals. The first one is our early childhood program. A couple of celebrations that we'd like to talk about in that program is our opportunities for least restrictive environments. When we opened up our program, we had 8 sections, and 4 of them are blended, which is where we have community students attending in the program with our special education students. And as of February, we were able to open up another classroom, because we had a waiting list in our community and we had enough students to bring in. So I think that's a huge celebration. And if you have a preschool age child, we'd love to enroll you for our fall 2015 school year. So contact me after the meeting because we have seats. So something else that we really are excited is we have, for the first time, an ELL teacher that is supporting students directly in our program, which is a huge success because it's allowing our kids to access some of that curriculum, academic language that they have never been able to access before in that manner. So I think that's a huge celebration. But with every growth, we have challenges. A couple of challenges that we've identified is that including those general education students, we really need to think of ourselves at a program level, and that includes general education, where before we've had this very straight special education lens. And so we have to really rethink about what does that academic rigor look like. Are we having a common message in all 4 classrooms so that a Batavia student has, excuse me, the same experience regardless of what teacher that they're in? And so the EC team has done some amazing work at building their core curriculum and instruction. But with that, we also know that student growth is a part of everything that we do. And we have not evaluated program evaluation data for some of our youngest students. So we have established some measures that's new this year, so that's something that we're really taking a look at is how do you measure and make sure that the students that attend our preschool are the most ready kindergarten students that enter, because we've been interviewing kindergarten teachers and really starting to identify that growth because we have the best opportunity to support our students here in the house. As far as our elementary levels, a huge success that we've had is we've expanded the LRE, where we've established some special education classrooms, not only for the K2 level, but instructionally at the 3-5 level. And so that's now a program housed at HC Storm, that this is the first year that's been recognized as a district level program. Students there have significant language needs or some behavioral needs that they need to be embedded across their days of support. So that's a huge success that we're able to keep more of our students here in Batavia. The other piece that we've really looked at is that IEP compliance and consistency, and that we're using our PLC time to dedicate once a month that our teams get together and really talk about IEP compliance and best practices. So they get some on-the-job training as well. And again, our resource teachers are embedded in some of that Common Core state standards work with the general education teachers, because again, we want to make sure that our students are in the classrooms and receiving the most rigorous instruction, plus getting their special education services. So that becomes more aligned and more intensive for those services. So that's been a huge celebration to bridge that gap between the collaboration of general education and special education teachers. An area, again, is that evaluation effectiveness, is that we really need to continue to look closely at our special education growth numbers. And we're also exploring program evaluation data, not only at the Developing Opportunities program, that will include our elementary teams, but also our multi-tier systems of supports, because one of the areas that we need to focus on is prevention, and we need to see how that is impacting some of our special education numbers directly.
As we look at the work that the middle school has undertaken this year, reflective of these 3 goals, we have, much as the elementary and early childhood program, been working to embed professional learning regarding IEP consistency for our students and for our families. But I think the most exciting and expansive work that the middle school has undertaken this year falls under that second goal area of really focusing on least restrictive environment and academic rigor for our students within receiving supports at Rotolo Middle School. And some of the ways that we have done that really have been to establish some guidelines for students in terms of where we're servicing their educational needs. And we're looking at expanding those opportunities for students and increasing the rigor. We're seeing more students being serviced within general education classrooms for their special education supports, which has been a large success for us. Additionally, we've worked to align the curriculum and our instructional classrooms with the Common Core. And we've done that in a number of ways, one of which has been embedding those resource teachers in the work of the content area PLCs. So they are working right alongside English language arts teachers and math teachers to make sure that not only are they content specialists, but they're also accommodations and specialists for our students with disabilities. So that has been an area of success for us. Areas of continued growth, I think, at the middle school are to continue to work on opportunities to provide core plus more services for our students with disabilities, because right now we're celebrating the growth of our students within our co-teaching environments, but we're also recognizing the fact that we're not able to give them more than what a typical student is receiving. And so our staff is really creatively looking at ways that we can provide opportunities through study skills to provide some more instructional opportunities for our students, as well as working to blend some of our more specialized programs for our students with more significant emotional or emotional and behavioral disabilities, as well as cognitive disabilities within the context of less restrictive environments.
And at the high school, a lot is very similar to what's happening at the middle school. We have also really focused on least restrictive environment. We have reduced the number of, we call them the essentials classes, which would be your typical special education class, and we have reduced that number, and we have had more opportunities for students to be mainstreamed into general education classes with support. So that the number of mainstream students has grown tremendously, which has been fabulous, because now they're being exposed to that same college career readiness curriculum as the general education students. We are also seeing, like, as I had mentioned before, increase in the job opportunities for the vocational transition students, and we are also looking to expand that into our students, the DL students, the students who have emotional needs as well in the future. So that's exciting, and that's starting to get going. We have also created intervention classes at the high school, which are servicing our general ed students who have not been necessarily identified as students with disabilities, but are students who are performing lower than we would like to see them. And that has been as Carrie was saying, that's kind of taking a look then at the whole system, all of our students, not just our isolated special education students, and how can we help students who have difficulties in learning. And that's in its first year. Those students have been tested using MAP testing as well as special education students, and we're seeing growth in those classes. One of the challenges, though, we face is that without our entire building being tested in MAP, we have nothing to compare to see if at this time they're making progress the same rate as their general ed peers, or if they're improving at a faster rate. So we're really kind of struggling in that area, but we are seeing them increase their reading ability and their math ability. One of the things that we are also doing is the IP compliance and consistency of services. We have really, among all of us, have really made it a key goal to have that experience for a parent be the same, whether they have a child at RMS or if they have a child at EC or if they have a child at high school. So your IEP meeting looks the same. The IEP looks the same. What they can expect on an IEP, what they can expect from their team members is all going to be consistent. So it's not going to be a big change when they transition from RMS to BHS. And that has been great this year. One of the challenges we still have is a lot of the compliance to the law. I know that all of us have been looking through IEPs and trying to help the teachers or the case managers or related service who's ever writing the IEPs to make sure that they're sticking within the guidelines of the law and correcting any things that are in error. But that's still a challenge, and something that I think with continued professional development we'll see an increase over time. Let's see.
In terms of some of the effectiveness data that we've been able to look at and wanted to highlight with you this evening, really some of the things that we're looking at are exactly what you're looking at in terms of board goals and student achievement within the context of the Batavia school. So what we're sharing with you are just 3 slides that are snippets of what our students are able to achieve given both the general education and special education supports here within the context of Batavia schools.
So one thing to notice when you look at this is that this is the MAP data, and this shows the percentage of students who have grown in their reading and students who have grown in their MAP in those areas on the MAP testing from this fall, which was I believe in September, to winter, which was right before Christmas break. The one thing to notice, though, is I had mentioned before, not all students at the high school take the MAP testing. It's only the students in the special ed classrooms, or students with IEPs and students who are in the intervention classrooms. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're looking at this data, that it's not every single student out there. But we are seeing our students grow. They're not yet up to where we'd like them to be, which is the same percentage, of course, as the general ed students, but it's exciting to see that they're growing as well.
In terms of just baselines of performance, we'd like to share with you kind of just highlighting this data that in fact the students that we are servicing as students with special needs within the Batavia schools are in fact performing at a lower rate, significantly so than their non-disabled counterparts, which is part and parcel to what we do in special education. I mean, part of what this shares with us is we're identifying the right students in Batavia public schools. But what we also know is we're able to have our students with special needs match the growth rates of their general education counterparts, but that is not yet sufficient to help us bridge this gap.
They almost have to do more than meeting their growth rate to bridge that gap.
So whereas it's a celebration that we're commensurate in many ways, we would like to accelerate that, and that will be a future goal for us.
All right, and then the next part we really wanted to take a look at, there's more to our department than just students with IEPs. We really wanted the board to be aware of some of the other needs. 504 is something you hear about all the time. We have 226 students in our district with 504 plans right now. Our hospitalizations are way up. 67 students so far this year that have been hospitalized. Those are all middle school or high school students, primarily high school. And we're going to talk more about what we feel is necessary to better support those students. We've had 20 different students on homebound tutoring this year, 28 students that have been suspended for drug or alcohol use or sale. And then we've had a number of outplacements for Safe Schools, support for the high school, 0 at the middle school, and 1 elementary. So there is some excitement there. Before we added some of the new continuum of services at the elementary level, we used to see elementary students being outplaced regularly, about 4 to 5 students per year. Up until this year. So you can see we've had 1 student that we've had to reach out to another placement. So that's super exciting. And that student, by the way, is doing very, very well. It was a student that really needed that extra support. So far this year, we've had 0 at the middle school. I mean, that's really something to celebrate. And we've also seen students coming back, which is really great. So we've been working really closely with Mid-Valley to transition students back 1 class at a time, which we think is great. But we're really concerned. We're concerned about the social emotional needs of our students. We're really concerned about the hospitalizations. And we feel like that's something that we really need to explore further about how can we support these students so they're not feeling so anxious at school, so that we're reaching out to the community and making sure that we have links to community resources, and most importantly, that we're really working closely with our families and our parents to support their children.
So taking a look, we've reflected on some of the needs because you can get pulled in so many directions, but where do you start making the biggest impact and how does that have a trickle-down effect for our students? Basically, the decisions that we make ultimately need to make sure that our students are successful, not only in the academic realm, but also that they can function and be very successful socially. And taking a look at that, we've started to develop 3 department goals that we'd like to implement for the following year. So
our first goal, much in line with the work that we've done this year with IEPs. What we'll be focusing on then next year is extending that work on IEP consistency to the evaluation process that students undergo when we're either considering them for special education entitlement or Section 504 entitlement, making sure that really we're aligning ourselves with best practice, using comprehensive batteries, and that our students and our families receive a similar experience in terms of the evaluation process and the entitlement process across the district.
And our second goal is really that focus on working with the C&I. We are a division, so working together to really take a look at all students, especially students at younger ages, so that we can really be proactive about building in supports. You'll hear MTSS as the new word instead of RTI. RTI is now MTSS, because we love to throw those different titles at you each year. But really the whole idea of that is really looking at both academic and social emotional, building in more common assessments that are easy, quick snippets that we can look at, not long tests that we're giving students, but multi-tiered systems of support.
Okay.
Yes. So really taking a look at some more common assessments that we can use early on to identify students that are having perhaps reading issues, math issues, or social emotion issues, and really doing something about it early on. And then taking that all the way up through the channels of middle school and high school, and really talking about what are we going to do about these kids that really need that social emotional piece. A lot of focus on working with our parents, having more of that support group approach where parents can come together and share ideas, really reaching out to families and having those conversations with them early on when we're starting to notice struggles with our students.
And lastly, that continuum of evaluation effectiveness. We need to always relook at what are we doing and is this really making a difference for our kids. In particular, taking a look at MTSS is really going to focus on that prevention aspect. And prevention doesn't necessarily mean the younger ages, but it just means younger in the process. So those kids that may be in high school that are struggling, what can we do before we see some of those major triggers and start to prevent some of those later, more significant issues for those students. In addition, that we've established this year is there's a lot of baseline data that we've collected, and we've started to develop action plans of how we want to monitor that throughout the year. So next year we really want to make sure, are we looking at the correct data to make sure that we're seeing progress with our students, and if not, what do we need to change, but also are our students progressing with some of those changes that we've implemented for our programs and supports.
And we ended with the final thought.
You just want to see us cry again.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Did anyone have any questions? Do you guys mind? if anyone
Oh,
has
no.
questions? I don't know if anyone has, but in case they do, I didn't want to.
Have the parents been involved in some of this process, and how are they reacting to it?
Yes, so we do have a Batavia Special Needs Parents Network, which has been around for a couple of years, but it really has changed focus this year because it's really being more parent-led. So we have meetings I always attend. I do sometimes present information to them, but it's really a chance for parents to just give us feedback and really talk about what they're looking at for services for their children, what their needs are. It's also branched off into smaller parent groups that are focusing more on, for example, students that are using devices, AAC devices to speak. We have a group that's come together for that. But really the focus on more of the social emotional piece and the focus on least restrictive environment is coming from our parents, because they're finding that when their students are getting to high school, that gap is pretty big. And so we're realizing that we really have to go back to elementary and say, what can we do to make sure that our students are all participating in the core and then getting additional services? But that really is really from our parents' responses.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else?
I just, the rise in the hospitalizations and the social motion, I know that's something we've been discussing as a board, and you had mentioned in your presentation that you guys were working on how this can, be prevented, or there's some tactics, but
yes,
if that's something that you come up with and can share with us, ways that you found would help better, or...
Yeah, some preliminary things that we're looking at. We're really looking at reallocating some of our staff. So this is a good year to do that. Right now we use Breaking Free to support our students with drug and alcohol needs. And it's a great resource, but it's an inconsistent resource because the counselors often change. So we're really hoping to use the funds that we use through IDEA funds and have our own person that can focus on drug and alcohol, because that's a big piece of what's going on at the middle school and high school. The other big piece is really having a liaison, and again, using existing staff in a way that somebody can really contact the hospitals, learn more about the programs, talk to the people at the hospitals about what patterns are you seeing, but most importantly, reach out right away to families. We've had families that have said that has made such a difference to have someone just call them and say, what's going on, what can we do to support you, and then really work with that child to get them back and be more creative about that transition. So whether it be partial homebound tutoring or things like that. And then I think the proactive piece is we just have to get out, we have to get into the classrooms, we have to help our teachers to look for some of the warning signs of anxiety and depression. Help our teachers, there's so much pressures that the teachers are facing with all the academic demands. So we have to make sure that we're balancing all of that and providing those opportunities to really look for. And then I think, Brad has really focused with me on, there's a lot of community resources that we have not utilized in Batavia. I think we've tried to take a lot of this on our own over the years, and we really have a lot of great community agencies that have said, please let us help. Mutual Ground is a perfect example of a group that's really worked closely with us this year. We've had some great conversations, and they've already helped many of our students.
You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
And I think actually that percent that you showed, the increase from 2010 to now, the 2.5% increase, can also be looked at as a positive number in that it's because of the awareness that's brought forth, the success that, that you and your staff have brought, and things that we've brought back into our system. And so it should be really kind of celebrated, which is the purpose for you.
Yeah, identifying kids and helping them is definitely a celebration. We want to do it earlier, and we want to do it through MTSS, but it's definitely a celebration that we're finding them.
The fact that the number grew is not a
Yeah.
terrible thing.
Yes.
I wanted to emphasize.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. That's great.
Anyone else? No. Thank you guys.
All right.
So
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you.
Item 7 on our agenda are our action items. 7.1, Dr. Miles, bond refunding.
Tonight we have before you the next series of refunding. So we've been doing this for 4 years now. Over the past 3 years, the board has saved over $5 million in interest reduction through the refundings that we've brought you, mostly from the Series 2008 bonds. Tonight we are refunding almost all of the 2007 series bonds. The resolution before you is a refunding of not to exceed $10 million of those bonds. The current estimate that we have that we expect to price tomorrow would be $9.89 million, which is the amount of that we can fit into the escrow and still not exceed that total of $10 million. A couple of different things about this refunding than you've seen previously. Over the past 3 years, when we've refunded the bonds and we've issued the new debt, we have funded that escrow using State of Illinois securities. That we are no longer doing that simply because the call date is coming up next year, and there's just not the interest savings that you can achieve by using that. So these will be funded using your normal state, local government securities. We do expect this. The yield curve has ticked up a little bit since the last time we presented this. So the present value savings has gone down from 12.08 to just over 11%. Still far in excess of the 3% threshold that you generally look at to do a refunding. So we now think that the overall savings will be just under $1.2 million of interest cost over the next 10 years. This will, for the next, I'd say 7 years, reduce the annual taxes that we extend to the community by about $70,000 to $75,000 a year. And then it accelerates in those final years where we have the larger principal. The resolution that you have is a parameters resolution because we don't have final pricing. I was on a pricing call today where we have negotiated most of the rates with Harris Bank, but due to regulatory reasons, we do need to post this again, so they will be doing that tomorrow morning. If the board approves this parameters resolution, you will be authorizing President Dremel and I to sit and talk with the underwriter, Mesereau Financial, to confirm that they have reached the at least present value savings of 5%, not $5 million, excuse me, of at least 5%, and we expect that will be accomplished tomorrow morning. We will be closing this very quickly so that we can file it with the county clerk pending your approval. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that I can. Otherwise, I would seek your approval of the resolution, also the creation of the escrow agreement, and authorizing the sale of the bonds.
Is that all in one motion?
Yeah.
It is all one motion, yes.
Okay.
Just wanted to make that clear.
Yes. The language in the agenda comes straight from Chapman and Cutler, our bond counsel, so it's very particular what they ask to have stated.
Okay. We've been here before.
Yeah. Still have. All right, then I would entertain a motion to approve the attached resolution providing for the issue of not to exceed $10 million bonds for the purpose of refunding certain outstanding bonds, providing for the execution of an escrow agreement and for a direct annual tax to pay said bonds, and authorizing the sale of said bonds to the purchaser thereof.
Second.
Moved by Lack, second by Stoops. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Lindsay?
Yes.
Gaspar?
Yes.
Locke?
Yes.
Yes.
Hodge?
Yes.
Dremel?
Yes. And I want to say thank you again, Dr. Mount, for being so aggressive in always seeking these opportunities out.
I would also like to commend Harris Bank moved some mountains to allow themselves to buy our debt. They have certain caps that they have where they'll only own so much debt for certain entities. And because of our relationship, either through the Illinois School District Liquid Asset Fund or the fact that we use them for our district banking services, they sold off other debt of ours that they were holding so that they could purchase this. And the pricing that the interest rates that we seem to get today will be confirmed tomorrow, but was more favorable than a competitive sale for someone that had a higher bond rating than we did. So they were very aggressive in their pricing. So it really helped out this community.
And I would like to point out, actually, that we had talked a couple of years ago about building relationships with various vendors instead of always just searching for, aggressive low prices on things. And I think that's a perfect example of how that's a very successful business model. So appreciate that. All right, moving on to the policy committee report, Dr. Hitchens.
We had a policy committee meeting last Tuesday. Your board reps are John and Sue, and they were there. And the normal path that a policy takes to become from a draft to an actual adopted policy is a first reading, and then a second reading and adoption, but you don't see that on today's agenda. What you see is something a little bit different. The first thing that John and Sue talked about that they felt like you guys could just do a first reading and adoption are some policies that make slight revisions to a couple of the policies in Section 5. So if you have questions about those were, Mr. Pierce presented those. They are compliance. They're making us compliant. So John and Sue felt that we could just read them and approve them tonight. The second part, like I said, normally we would do a first reading, a second reading, and then an adoption. We're not quite ready on this policy 740, non-public school students. So John, at the policy committee meeting, John and Sue talked about revising that policy there to be more inclusive for students to a little bit of a blend between our old policy that we had that was very inclusive of non-Batavia public school students being able to access our athletics and our extracurriculars. And then the one that we presented was maybe a little bit too restrictive, so they gave us some suggestions. You'll see some revisions there to that. So we're actually asking you to engage in a second reading, give us feedback, and you're not even going to adopt that one. We're going to bring it back for a third reading. And then the Citizens Advisory Committee report is there for your consideration. The people that were on the Citizens Advisory Committee have received a copy of this report. I've gotten some feedback from some of the people that were on the committee. Most of it said it looks good, no changes. I do have some, I do have some good suggestions, nothing very major, but when you look at the programming section of that report, people said maybe give a couple examples of what you mean by that. So it'll be a little bit more descriptive when you read the programming section of that report. So any questions or comments about any of those before you adopt the changes to policies 5180 and 5250?
No, good. All right. Okay. I'm usually quiet tonight. Then I would entertain a motion to approve the changes to policies 5185 and 5250 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gaspar, second by Blakely. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Blakely?
Yes.
Gaspar?
Yes.
Locke?
Yes.
Stoops?
Yes.
Hodge?
Yes.
Semmel?
Yes. Moving on to the third item on our action agenda tonight is the John C. Dunham STEM Partnership School.
I think we're going to probably turn it over to Brad. We've had a couple times that we've talked about this at the at board meetings. We had a tour. We do have questions that I know that are still out there that we want to make sure we answer the ones that we are able to answer tonight, even though we're not able to answer every question because there's some decisions that haven't been made. They're waiting on the STEM Partnership School is waiting on whether or not we'll be joining before we're able to answer some of those questions. So I'm going to turn over to Dr. Newkirk who will answer those questions that you had.
Great. The Dunham STEM School is an opportunity to learn and to innovate. And Batavia has been offered potential partnership in this agreement, and I think we're approaching it in both of those directions, both to learn and to innovate. All school districts right now are looking at next generation science standards, and these standards are complex, in-depth, but extraordinarily necessary for our students' future success. And as a district, we have had a science leadership team that has been looking at next generation science standards for over a year. And while we've made some positive steps in the right direction, it has been a steep learning curve for our district. This is an opportunity to work with 3 other districts that have been immersed this full year in next generation science standards. They benefit not only from their collective knowledge, but also the resources and knowledge of Aurora University and their business partners, including Caterpillar, Waste Management, and other scientific companies. That really is, to me, the true benefit of the STEM school, is to be able to learn with these partners. There is an additional benefit that 50 of our students get to attend the STEM school. And this is not an opportunity for all students. This is an opportunity for those students with a passion and interest to select into their participation in the STEM school. But I more importantly see this as an opportunity for Batavia Public Schools to learn about STEM education. And this is an area of potential growth. Looking to 2018, when some of our students will be entering the workforce, they say there will be 8 million STEM jobs available in the United States in 2018. Many of those will go unfilled because students don't have the necessary skills to participate in those high-quality jobs. This is an opportunity to provide curricular support to our students through the curriculum that's been developed in collaboration with the STEM school, but it's an opportunity also to bring back that learning for all of our students. And that learning comes back in the form of looking at what does that curriculum look like in our everyday classroom. But to me, really importantly, is how do we support our teachers in learning to teach to next generation science standards. Even in the time that we've been discussing this, we've had teachers participate in high quality professional development taught by Exelon, where they can provide resources and support for teachers teaching to these content areas. So I see this as a great teacher support. Amy talked about doing whatever we can to support our teachers. I see this right in that vein. This is an opportunity to support our staff in learning. Learning is a difficult process and is one of growth. And I think that this can help us through that process. The criteria was one thing that came up as a question from our board members. And while I appreciate very much the endorsement of Can Do for this partnership, this is not a school for the gifted. This is an opportunity for students with a passion in math and science to participate and choose a unique opportunity to learn at the STEM school in Aurora. Our job is to bring that learning back and to use that learning for the benefit of all Batavia students. So this is an opportunity for those 50 students, but more importantly, for the 6,500 students that we serve here in our school district. The criteria, we will work with the partners if we proceed with this. We will make those criteria public so that everyone can see it. Our goal, as we've approached the STEM school, is that the criteria for entrance for Batavia students, and this I think is echoed in the STEM partners, is that the criteria is inclusive as much as possible without setting kids up for failure. So again, this is not a gifted program. We're trying to be inclusive and really foster the unique needs and wants of students who are interested in STEM education. Tonight before you, there is a resolution to enter into discussions with the STEM school. Our next steps are many, but it's something that in providing opportunities for our teachers and for our students, we're willing to do the work to get there. The first question would be, how do we step into the STEM school, including what grades we would step in, so that we have that information to communicate to families about what opportunities are there for those 50 students. We would bring back, after the STEM school builds their budget, the budget for your approval as well, and we would extensively plan for both internal communication, because we would be looking for 2 teacher volunteers, and then also externally, how do we talk to students? And we know that the STEM school provides support through their partners in talking to parents and students about this particular opportunity. So communication planning, and then really our goal is to bring the learning back to Batavia. We're going to have the expertise of 2 teachers that would be there for 2 to 4 years, but more importantly, our job is to look for ways to continually bring back that learning for the benefit of all Batavia students.
Now we get to ask questions. I think the biggest, and we've talked extensively about this, and to me there's sort of a dual approach that I'm looking at. There's sort of the long-term visionary approach, which I think is valuable, and I think it says a lot about who we are as a district. But there's also the immediate huge concern that we've had about every standard in every discipline is changing, and while it affects our upper levels, it really slams our elementary teachers because everything that we've used is no longer useful for new standards. So am I understanding correctly that we have an opportunity to have curriculum that we could use immediately? We could disseminate it through our district and we would have resources for those teachers to put their hands on if we join this partnership.
We would have access to the STEM schools curriculum. You're correct. We're going to look for ways to bring that back. But I think it starts with teacher professional development around those standards, because part of frustration with curriculum is we give you a new curriculum, but not the supports to understand it, know it, and be able to teach it. Our teachers are very bright people, but teaching something and knowing something are two different things. So our first priority will be to get professional development for our teachers, and then really actuate the curriculum that we would have access to through the STEM school.
Okay. Second question related to that curriculum, and I think you've answered this to my comfort, but I want to confirm. The science curriculum, I know that, and I missed the tour with everybody, but they have these beautiful state-of-the-art facilities. So I think one of the questions was, can we utilize the science curriculum, or are we lacking facilities or equipment that we would need to truly embrace this opportunity to learn from these new science standards from this great partnership?
While scientific equipment is necessary for some things, it's not for all learning. And the one thing that we've learned through our exploration of next generation science standards, it's that it's about everyday inquiry that really is scientific thinking. And doing science is really about exploring the world in which we live, and that can be done with very basic equipment. We've seen the prices of some of the high-tech equipment come down drastically, such as 3D printers, which used to be, well over $1 million, are now, $1,200. But there is some scientific equipment that's necessary, but most of the learning that we can bring back to Batavia can be done with everyday materials.
And again, I missed this when we toured, but my understanding is that there's also a lot of just extra partnerships that we would benefit from with all of these corporate partners. So I understand that Dr. Eagle is a very strong advocate for the school, and so she is always out there creating opportunities. And so my understanding is we've sent teachers to professional development already just because we're talking to them. That's correct?
Yep.
And that would continue. So there will be all of these opportunities that we would not be able to participate in if we were not partnering.
Correct. I think that's one of the huge benefits to this, is that teacher professional development, where they get professional development from industry experts and people who practice science for a living, scientists. So I think that's a huge benefit to our Batavia teachers as they learn about and explore next generation science standards and how to convey that to students. So I see that as a huge benefit. I think there are benefits, side benefits for all students, such as participating in their summer programs and their summer camps at what I think are bargain basement prices for really high quality summer programming if students are interested in STEM education.
And this is totally new question to you, but what do you think the chances are that we would have a student that was really excited, a family that was supportive of the STEM school, and then after that experience, they were like, yeah, no, that's not really my area. Do we see that as even a possibility? Are we, I know there's concerns like, are we putting them in this path that then they're trapped into? I don't know even if I'm asking that question correctly, but just how do you envision that?
I think with the primary criteria for admittance into the STEM school being a student's passion for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, you're really avoiding a lot of that. I know when we talked, Dr. Hitchens and I talked to Dr. Eagle about the number of students that would be leaving the STEM school after the first year. There were very few cases where students kind of said, no, this is not for me. When I visited the STEM school and watched the students, they were super passionate about science education. And when it was time to switch over to social studies, you could hear the typical moans and groans. But these are kids who are passionate about this, and the teachers there are working really hard to foster that passion that their students have for this subject area. But that is a possibility, and I know districts are committed to working with families to, check in with them, make sure that the experience is right for their students, and if it's not, creating off-ramps for them.
Okay. I dominated. Anyone else have a question?
I thought one of the interesting things when we took our tour was seeing how many other programs were, or how many other school districts were interested in this program, but essentially, for lack of a better term, aren't allowed to participate because of proximity. This is a model that, you know, not necessarily the John C. Dunham school itself wants to duplicate other districts, but it's a model that's drawing interest from other districts, and it's like, you know, they'd have to say, sorry, you know, transportation issues or, you know, your costs and such, you can't be part of this. So I think we're in an opportune position in order to be able to capitalize on, you know, the proximity of where our district is to this great school, as well as being able to, you know, have our students be part of it and our educators. And I think when I was meeting with Lisa and Chris earlier last week, I know there's questions as to say, like, you know, where's the immediate entire student impact that's going to come from that? Quite honestly, there isn't one. And, you know, we shouldn't shy away from that type of statement because there just isn't. Not every student is interested in science, engineering, technology, and math. You're not going to take a kid who's really strong in band and drama and force him to do chemistry if he doesn't want to do it. But I do find that, or she, I'm sorry, not to be sexist, I have 3 daughters, but I just saw this opportunity as in that a farmer doesn't plant a field and then run out the next day expecting to have standing corn. We can't join this program and expect there to be immediate results within the first week, month, year. This is something that we're going to be bringing back to integrate into our district. And what I find exciting about this from the 3rd to 8th grade perspective is that we can also create this excitement and opportunity and learning to foster future curriculum implementation into the high school. That's going to be, you know, stimulating that as well. Because the last thing you want to do is have our students come back, you know, after 8th grade graduation there and throw a bucket of cold water on them and tell them that they're streamlined or mainlined again, you know? Yeah, so it was an exciting, you know, venture and partnership that they had there that I was really excited about. And to open it up to even more than the 50 students, I love the summer programs that they had that are open to other students as well, and they're, you know, great prices for those. And then the professional development aspect of it as well. Bringing this next generation science curriculum, which again isn't a curveball that we're not seeing coming. It's coming. It's just we have to be prepared for these types of things. Why not capitalize on an opportune moment like this to get an industry, you know, so far leader and expert, although it's in its infancy, to be able to learn and develop and grow and implement from that.
And you know, I know we've talked a lot about that our teachers have a lot going on, and as a board we've said we do not want to add things to our teachers' plates, and I feel like this is one thing that actually gives them support. It's something where we can say, here is these partners that will work with us, these opportunities that we have, and these resources that are just invaluable. And so I feel like it's a great opportunity to finally say, here is something that is tangible and real, but also incredibly visionary, and I love that dual approach.
I agree. I spoke with Amy this afternoon, and we discussed the teachers and how this would offer some relief to them, and I like the benefit of having the partnerships with the schools and offering the curriculum. I see this as a long-term investment, not something to be just seen as a short-term benefit. I like your analogy of the farmer in the field and the corn overnight.
Really
That's great.
Analogy, but
every once in a while.
Nailed it.
I expected that folksiness to come from
Yeah.
instead. So
No,
I'm impressed.
but yeah, I like that. So yeah, it is something you have to look down the road to.
So I dominated the question answer asking, does anyone else have any other questions? Anything they want clarified?
I don't have any questions. They've been all answered. I just have a comment when all the questions are done in case it changes my mind.
Okay.
Well, let's clarify cost. Let's get the elephant out of the room. I mean, what are we looking at for upfront costs that, you know, are probably more related to transportation than anything? And, any types of ideas on preliminary plans for those transportation issues?
Sure. We have in the budget workshop that we had on Saturday, we had built in $180,000 worth of cost. That would include both tuition and transportation. There is an additional cost of the 2 staff members that are still BEA and Batavia employees that would be on loan at the STEM school. So there's an additional cost for the 2 employees as well.
And that was also worked in.
Yes.
And to clarify, I mean, I know that there is talk about, oh, we're doing this and we don't have some of these very specific things nailed down, but I do want to remind everyone that we will be voting on this, but then we will also be voting on all of the pieces. So we will not be moving forward with each piece. We'll be voting on each piece. So it's not like we'd suddenly have a huge surprise that we could not accommodate for. We have some understandings. We know next steps. But that's the difficulty of this type of process is we may not always be able to nail every detail down. So we're making each vote its preliminary step so we can take the next step because we nailed that down.
Right, the next step for the STEM school would be for us to look at our step-in process, and then also for the STEM school to build their budget, if potentially on 4 partners rather than their 3. So they're kind of in a holding pattern, waiting to see the results of this discussion before building the budget, and they would take that back to each of the 3 or 4 districts for approval by their boards of education, and then our work with our union partners, the association, because an MOU would be necessary. That's been done in the other 3 districts as well.
All right, then I would...
Can I say a comment then?
Oh, yeah, are you ready, John? That's fine.
Before you go to the motion?
No, you can
have a
please make
question?
your comment.
No, I'm done with my question. I was just going to comment. Go ahead.
All right. My comment about the STEM. The STEM school has pluses and minuses for me. Taking a closer look at both sides of why we should enter into this agreement. With the STEM school housed at Aurora University, listening to comments from administrators, board members, staff, and citizens, I have come to my decision after careful deliberations. There is a push out there that we need to move ahead with more math and science to be better prepared for the future, and where we are lagging behind the rest of the world in these areas. Why are we just worrying about math and science when we also have a need for young people to go into manufacturing jobs that will pay handsomely? Students don't even know this or aren't being told this in the middle and high school. We need to develop creative and critical thinkers who have a grasp of the big picture, not a narrow focus on STEM. This new program will take only a few of our students that have an interest in math and science, and that leaves behind a number of other students that have the same interest. Is that fair? No, but life isn't fair. I am looking out for the others in the long waiting list from the other districts that will then turn into a longer list if we partner with them. What happens if 3 years down the road another group of investors, organizations come in with a plan to house just art and music students, or language arts for creative and critical thinkers, or just history? Do we automatically say yes because we have a STEM program in place? Then we start specializing in different schools outside of our boundaries, and to me that becomes a slippery slope. Don't get me wrong, I am all for the core and non-core classes. I think we can help ourselves by keeping everything in-house and seeking help from Fermilab and other organizations to help work with our current curriculum with our great staff. The opportunities that these students will get in math and science will be top-notch. However, I'm afraid of the fewer elective and choices they will get, and they won't have the chance to explore, especially at the middle school level. I think this is still an early age to figure out what you really want to do with your life. I'm also afraid of the students in the younger grades that would be away from their home schools. I'm not sure if this would affect any of the middle school students from participating in extracurricular activities also. Financially, it is a large sum of money for a new program serving a few students, in my opinion. We will be losing a portion of the pupils' attendance per pupil attendance we get in order to pay the STEM school tuition. If all these organizations are putting millions into this new school, then it should be cheaper for the students and the districts. Maybe a fee from the parents would be appropriate for a special school. What would that be? I have no idea. However, the money we pay for tuition will be out of our general fund yearly. With the finances that we have at this time and what the next few years look like based on our workshop a few Saturdays ago, I don't know if investing is the correct thing to do at this time. Again, I have stated, and I haven't changed my mind on this, I want to bring some of our programs back that we had several years ago before we had to make cuts and sacrifice to our district. I don't want to start a new program at a time when finances are still up in the air. Still up in the air is a good idea, and then have to make the cut down the road. I would like to be patient and see what this brings financially to our district with regards to former Senate Bill 16, which I won't say anymore, which is now Senate Bill 1, and what our new governor will do with funding for education. I'm very frightened on that part right there of losing a lot of money. I don't see why we can't wait if the money is not an issue in a few years to come and the STEM school is doing well, and then maybe we could join in. But that would be a discussion at a later time depending on what happens tonight. With all that said, and after many discussions, I need to be cautious and will respectfully vote no on joining the STEM school in Aurora. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Then I would...
I have a comment now. First off, I want to thank the staff for taking all the time, taking a lot of time to answer all of our questions, endless number of questions. I mean, this, I made a comment to my wife the other night, this is the toughest decision I've had since sitting in this chair. There are some reservations I have. The timing and implementation is a huge challenge in this time frame. It's a small window. Probably one of the largest ones I have. And there's a rare moment that I actually wrote some things down that I want to read, because I usually, everything's off the cuff with me. So,
Really?
So please bear with me. I see tremendous potential and values, these unlimited opportunities for growth and future learning that could be brought to this district. We've gotten a number of emails about how easy this decision should be, and it's a no-brainer for the district. We've gone back and forth weighing many pros and cons. We, as a board, deliberate, discuss, vote based on all the information available to us. It's easy to make decisions when somebody wants to look at one side of something. That's a lousy way to come to a conclusion. It's not part of the solution. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Okay? So, unfortunately, we've made decisions in the past. Well, ultimately, we've made decisions in the past. Sorry about that. To bring things back in-house, which is exciting. ELL, SEL, just to name a few. But we've also made some cuts in programs in our grade school levels and various areas. So that's stuff that I know we wanted to work to bring back. Ultimately, as a board, we have to make some very difficult decisions. And I sit here and make the decision based on what's best for the 6,291 students registered in this school district. And that's what I was elected for. And so I have a little bit of a problem sending somebody outside the district to another building. And so I'd like to leave this quote. Don't find fault, find a remedy, by Henry Ford. But I will be voting no for this resolution.
Thanks, Greg. Does anyone else want to pre-vote before we take the vote?
Kind of curious.
Well, I thought I should explain why.
I appreciate it. I'd like to be heard. I appreciate the comments. I will call for a vote, and then we can further comment if anyone feels the need. I would entertain a motion to adopt the attached resolution to join the John C. Stunham STEM Partnership School.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Stoops, second by Locke. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
No.
Locke.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Hodge.
No.
Dremel.
Yes. All right, we'll be moving forward with the STEM Partnership School, although in the spirit of comments, Melanie Impastato had sent me an email asking me just to share some of her thoughts because it really disappointed her that she could not join us. And so out of respect for her hard work on this same topic, I said yes, I would share her thoughts. First, she wanted to go on the record and apologize for missing her very first ever board meeting since her appointment to the board. However, she has work commitments in Washington, D.C. this week that she could not miss. And she says, although I am disappointed to miss any part of the meeting, I am most upset to be deprived of the opportunity to participate in the discussion and vote on the John C. Dunham STEM School Partnership. As I have publicly stated on a number of occasions, I am a strong supporter and proponent of STEM curriculum. STEM skills are necessary in order for today's students to be tomorrow's global learners. The jobs of the century require workers to have greater ability to think critically and to work as a team member as well as independently, and STEM education enables the next generation of innovators that can compete with the other nations of the world. 10-year employment projections from the U.S. Department of Labor show that the 20 fastest growing occupations in 2014, that 15 of them require significant science and math preparation and training. I've also publicly stated that I believe BPS 101 needs to focus on strengthening its science curriculum, particularly at the elementary level, and its interdisciplinary math and science curriculum district-wide. That said, she had concerns and was not sure she would support the Batavia joining of the John C. Dunham STEM School, and she knows she was not able to vote tonight, but she did want to at least publicly have an opportunity to share her thoughts and concerns and the things that she's hoping, if it does pass, that we will be addressing. One of them being the cost issues that we have all talked about tonight. She wants to make sure that those materials are all available, that the costs are nailed down, and that corporate partnerships truly will be beneficial to our district. Second, she wanted to make sure that all the details of the 2 teachers that would be working at the STEM school were nailed down. She wants to make sure that we are really effectively bringing that curriculum back. And her third concern is the selection process of the 50 students, ensuring that we are addressing all of those questions that Brad had mentioned. And she said she struggled mightily with this topic, and she was impressed with the STEM facility, and she truly believes that we need to improve our science, technology, and math curriculum and integrate STEM curriculum into Batavia Public Schools. But because she's not here and was not able to participate in that discussion at the time, she said she was very uncertain about the direction that we would go. She says, should this recommendation move forward tonight, I implore both parties to provide more details to this plan. Thank you. So, thank you, Melanie. I appreciate the fact that even when she is focused on on what pays the bills, that she was still trying to do everything she could to be doing her board business. Finally, we are going to move on to administrative comments.
I think you've heard from most of the administrators here tonight in one way or another, and I appreciate the report from the Student Services Committee. I know that I already talked about strategic planning, but I need to revisit that and just say how the decisions that you make really do align with the strategic plan that's in place, and I look forward to having you guys give us more direction moving forward so that we can bring you agenda items that are aligned with your strategic plan.
That was short and sweet. Board member comments. Jason, if you'd like to start tonight.
Sure, I'll make them quick. First, just wanted to congratulate Rotolo Middle School on their penny wars. Raising over $6,000 is very impressive. I think my penny jar gave about 500 of that, so having my 2 daughters battle each other with my money is something I should be used to by now. Wanted to congratulate the state wrestler and the state gymnasts that are competing. It's a great accomplishment. Wanted to congratulate and thank the J.B. Nelson PTO for the Mimeo cameras. That was a great donation to our school, and it's definitely going to come in beneficial. And, you know, I always appreciate our discussions that we have, especially on issues that weigh so hard on us. I mean, I'm thankful that they do weigh hard on us because this isn't an easy job, and in thinking of the 6,000 plus students that we're trying to affect, it's something that we just don't think about our children, but we think about our community, every student, every educator, and every citizen here. So I appreciate the discussion and the comments, but I am pleased that the resolution is moving forward. Go Bulldogs.
Sue?
I want to thank the board. We do have a great discussion back and forth, and so many times everybody thinks we always just go 7-0, but that's not always the case. We do a lot of, consent agendas and stuff.
Oh, that's true. There you go.
But a lot of times there is a lot of agreement, and it's nice to have discussion and discourse once in a while. And but no matter what, we always come together and move forward, and we always respect each other's opinions, no matter what, and we'll move forward. I would like to ask Chris, if you would repeat your opening statement. Do you remember what you said?
Nice quiz.
Should we rewind?
I believe I talked about how over the past 4 years that you've done 4 different refundings, well, with the one tonight, and it's saved over $5 million. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Thank you. Because I guarantee you, what comes out of this meeting tonight, the headlines are going to talk all about the STEM school, not that. And that's what people need to remember. So I would like to thank you for that, and just please be aware of what we've done as a board. Yes.
Thanks, Sue.
Thank you.
Greg?
I don't have really any.
Do you have any more notes?
No, but no, I did all the writing I could. I would like to say that, as I have in the past, this is a democratic process in which I gladly participate in, and I will wholeheartedly support the decision of this board as a unified board.
Thanks, Greg. Tina?
I really do, but this has been a really long week as a board member.
And it's Tuesday.
And it's Tuesday. And this has been a very emotional meeting. I didn't think it was going to be as emotional. And I just have to thank everybody who came up and talked to us today. And it's like we have our can-do, we have our special needs, and it's just, we have our teachers, and we have these tremendous amount of changes that are coming at us, and they are not stopping. We can't stop them, they're happening. We have budget issues, we have so many things that we work so hard up here to make everybody somewhat happy, and it doesn't work. Still.
Nobody.
And this week especially, like Greg said, this was a really tough one, because I think a lot of people just see that this is serving 50 children, and it's not. And I was reminded today why I became a board member, which is a question we get asked on a regular basis. And I think the financial end of it is talked about quite a bit, and fiscal responsibility. And that's important, but I became a board member for our kids. I became a board member because I love Batavia, and I support our teachers, and I think a great school district creates a great town. And I did this, I did for our kids, and there's over 6,000 of them. And then I'm hoping that the decisions we make, whether you agree with them or not, that you understand that we do this with the best intention, and we're hoping that we're making the right decisions for our kids and our staff and our community. So I did want to say thank you, Amy, for your statement that you made about the PARCC testing. Again, it's really easy to hate a test, but there's also reasons why we have to give that test right now, because we're not Winnetka. And I just want to thank my board members, because like I said, it's been a really long week, and administration, thank you so much for the time you gave us, each and every one, because we cannot meet together as a group, so they have to take time out of their day to meet with each individual one of us. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Tina.
Thank you.
John?
It's always it's okay to agree to disagree.
It is. That's right. That's right.
I agree with, I agree with Greg. The vote was 4-2, but, we will support, and hopefully it works out for the best. And that's what we're going for, and that's why we sit up here. But, I gave you my reasons why I voted, but I will support it. Couple of comments, and I had it written down, as you know, is thank you to my fellow board members and administrators for the last few weeks discussing the STEM program. The visit to the STEM school was enjoyable. I believe we had a good conversation and something that we all struggled with. Thank you for really looking deep into this program. I don't think it was easy for any of us. The special workshop we had on finance, thank you, Chris, that was very informative and very helpful, and thank you for all the details. Again, I always want to thank people here at RJAC, administrators, especially Kathy and anybody else that questions to always come through on a timely basis. My wife attended the Play Our Town in the Black Box, and very enjoyable. It was fun to see a totally different set of kids this year than what I've been used to the last 4 years when my daughter was in school. But God, it doesn't cease to amaze me how wonderful the kids grow into the arts. And I guess I don't have this written down, but this could be trouble.
Script.
And the park testing, as Tina said, it's one of those things that, it was brought up today. It's one of those things that, and I'll be honest, if I had a choice, I probably would not do it. But I'm not going to lose money on it. And that's the bottom line from the state. Maybe how it goes, it might not last long. I don't know. But as Amy said, I guess we have to talk to our legislators and everybody. As they said, politicians make these policies, and then we get stuck by them. So the wrong people sometimes are in charge of what's happening for our kids. So, but that touched me, the park. So, kind of glad I am out of education now. So, but I hope for the best for the teachers, the parents, and the students. And I just hope for the best for that. So, hopefully it wakes up.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
And Amy, the one thing I would request is when you share that information about how we can advocate for our students, if you could share it with the board too, that would be great.
Sure.
Thanks. The last item on our agenda is we do have something for closed session. There is no action afterward, but I would entertain a motion to enter into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity.
So moved.
Second. Okay, moved by Stoops, second by Locke. Katie, would you call the roll?
Layton.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yep.
Hodge.
Yes.
Yes, and again, we will be entering into closed session, but there is no action to follow our return to open.